the indestructible small Toyota Tacoma before they got big. This is a 96. The guy paid $2,200 for it like 80,000 miles ago. Is he getting his money worth? Well, I certainly think he is. Now, the only downside to this truck is it's in the East Coast here in Connecticut, so as per usual, they had problems with these frames starting to rot away. Now, it's not horrible. This back part is starting to rot here, but see how it's still solid, not crunchy? This is 10 times better than the one my son had. We'll go to the other side, and again, we can see, there's rotten parts, but the rust is still pretty solid. Solid as a rock. That's from the salt of the tire spraying it up. So actually, it's not in that bad shape, just those parts. I would re-weld steel on those parts myself. Not like my son's would put whole plates in. He still drove it around that way, but this is an immaculate shape compared to his. All right, I've had customers buy late model Tacoma. Some of those things were over 40 grand. And he paid $2,200 for this when it had like 60,000 miles on it. Go back in time. It happened to be, yes, believe it or not, a granny's car. He bought it from a granny with his friend. I guess the new one they're going to call Stout, and it's going to be a small pickup truck because all these people, they think they know their own business. Let me tell you something. A lot of them, they don't know squat about the American public. Americans loved these small pickup trucks, but they wanted to make bigger ones for bigger profit, right? Ford, making their little Mavericks, they're selling the heck out of those things. And they're a smaller pickup truck. It'll be interesting to see if Toyota Stout will be the classic rear-wheel drive or whether they'll go to front-wheel drive like the Maverick did. Those Mavericks really ride quite well for a little pickup truck. When these things were made, yeah, they ride rough. They're a little pickup truck. But the modern ones can be made so they ride well. And they all made a mistake, if you ask me, not making small ones. There are a lot of people. You can fit a lot of stuff in this. Gets a lot better gas mileage than a big giant truck. Since these were Toyotas, they generally lasted forever. Because when you look under the hood, the venerable 2.4 liter Toyota 4-cylinder engine. These things, I've seen them with 1 million miles on them. They are so well made. This particular one doesn't burn oil. Yeah, the AC still works. Just made to go and go. Now, when you check it out, the original Toyota bed, hey, still in pretty good shape. The youngins out there, these are called split bench seats. You probably have no idea what they are, but they are bench seats. People put them to use back in the days because look how wide they are. And as we close the door, these are called hand crank windows. For those of you who don't know, that's how we used to open windows. They never broke. You cranked them up and down by hand. Now, I notice it's still got the Toyota Logic Control tape deck. This was before even CDs. It's got a tape deck in it. Basic vehicle, no sunroof, glass in the back. The fancy ones, like one my son had a sliding back, but this is just a plain old back. But you start it up. It's a Toyota. They always start. This key is so worn, you can pull it out. Leave the car running. Now, they weren't made that way. It just wore out that way. Now, listen to this rattling pile of junk. Well, don't blame the vehicle. He's just throwing a bunch of junk back here. It's all rattling away. There's nothing wrong with the vehicle. Now, I do have to say, they said they had storage behind the seat, but it's not that roomy. And yeah, the plain old tires don't have hubcaps anymore, and the rims are rusty, but they still work. This was radical. It had 16 valves. Well, radical from dinosaur ages. Originally, cars only had 2 valves per cylinder, so it would have 8. This has 16 because there's 4 valves per cylinder. Mass airflow sensor change is still on, so we're going to do a scan just to see what's going on. But since this is a 1996, in Connecticut, when they're 25 years old, you don't have to go through the emissions testing. So he can merrily drive his Toyota around. It runs perfectly fine and not care about it. Gee, you gotta wait 25 years in Connecticut and Tennessee. It's instant. They don't do any kind of inspection. That's an old vehicle, so we use an old scan tool. I spilled some paint on it the other day, but you can still read it, so. And the code is P0171. System is 2 lean on bank 1. Generally, if you get a small intake manifold leak, maybe a little leaky EGR valve, or even a clogged fuel filter, or dirty fuel injectors, you can often get that code. It's the only code it has, so let's look at live data. You can see the short-term fuel is 0%, so short-term it's not running lean. but long term, it's heady quite a bit. Now it's got no problems at highway speed, so it can't be the fuel pump not pumping enough pressure because it runs perfectly fine. It's getting around 29 miles a gallon on the highway. Hey, it's a truck. That's really good gas mileage considering how old it is. It's got the old-fashioned emergency brake that you pull instead of having it over here. It's the old American style from old cars. We'll look at some more of the data, see if anything looks weird. Timing's good, air temperature's right. Now here's a warning I'll give you about old cars like this. It does say it's running 30% lean on the long term, even though the short term is normal. It's getting 29 miles a gallon and it's running fine. My advice is, leave it alone. Because I've actually fixed vehicles like this. I could get the long-term fuel trim to be maybe 1 or 2% instead of 30. You know what happened? The gas mileage went down. Because if it runs lean, you're losing less fuel and more air. You get a lot of little rattling noises of bearings and stuff going around. But I don't hear any vacuum leaks, and I know it can't be a vacuum leak now. And here's my reasoning. If you got a vacuum leak on a car, it does the most damage when it's idling. Because if it's stuck in air, you get too much air, not enough fuel, it'll idle like crap. This thing idles perfectly fine. If you do have a vacuum leak, when you're going at lower speeds, it affects the vehicle more because the engine's only going 800-900 RPM. When a vehicle's going fast on a highway, worse fuel trims, if you've got a different problem, like the injectors are dirty or they're old or something like that, because a vacuum leak is generally going to make it worse in the long term and not the short term idling around. Something in the fuel injection system is just acting up a tiny bit. And as old as this thing is, with 29 miles a gallon, who really cares? You don't really care. You don't worry about that kind of vacillation on an old truck like this. He uses it every day, doesn't burn oil, runs perfectly fine, runs pretty good the way it is. Getting 29 miles a gallon, you want to lose a few of those so it's running a little bit richer? Not me, I'd leave the thing alone. We're going to take it for a road test now. This old handbrake off, we'll ignore the check engine light. We know what it is. And of course, there's no backup camera. You use your head for a backup camera. These old things rattled, but what the heck? Whee! You can fly over those bumps. And the brake light comes on because the switch here is kind of stuck, but we don't care about that either. It still goes down the road. Rattles and all. The silver back into the mirror starting to go away on the edges. All the old Toyotas did that. But the flap's still working. A lot of times they're broken, but this is still working. Let's turn the radio up if you don't like the rattling noise. It's almost lunchtime, so there'll be 8 million people here. Doesn't idle all that bad. The rattling more or less goes away until you hit bumps. And here we go. We'll floor it. Listen to that engine. Smooth shift. Still got plenty of zip in it. That's a very reliable 2.4 liter engine. Realize, it's not that small of an engine. It's a reasonable size. And can we turn fast? Yes, we can. Look at that. Hey, let go of the wheel. It's centered right. These are fun little trucks. I think Toyota's going to make a smart move if they start making small trucks again. There are so many people that want small trucks. I mean, these things you can basically run forever. In Afghanistan, my son saw tons of them when he was there. So really nothing unexpected. The engine still's got pulling power, still shifts like a dream. And you know, he's basically done not much of anything other than change the oil, put tires on when they wore out, and put gasoline in the tank. And when we're driving back, I don't hear any humming from worn wheel bearings or anything. They're all still in excellent shape. They overbuilt these little bitty pickup trucks. Back in the day, I mean, that's why they sold so many of them. They just lasted so long. So these old Tacomas, they may have been small, but man, they're pretty much bulletproof vehicles. Now, of course, if you're looking at a used one, you want to check out the frame. And in this case, most of it's pretty solid. There's a few holes that could be welded over. But if you get a hammer and you hit it and it goes crunch, don't buy the vehicle because the frame is just going to crack in half. I have had people buy them, and strangely enough, Toyota does have a deal where they're supposed to fix all the rotten frames, right? And then they say, oh, now they're too old, too many miles or whatever. But last year I had a guy buy one with a rotten frame. He got a hold of Toyota. They took the truck, they pulled the entire truck off the frame, put it on a new frame, and didn't charge him anything for it. It's just odd. I've seen where they have hundreds of them sitting in warehouses, the frames. And they decide who they're going to fix them for, who they're not going to fix them for. Don't bank on buying one with a rotten frame and thinking, well, they'll fix it for free. Because putting a frame is more money than any vehicle's worth that's as old as this. You got to take everything off and then put it all on another frame. So engine, transmission, wheels, doors, everything. So if you do see one with a rotten frame, my advice is walk away, don't mess around with it. He's driven it 80,000 miles for 2,200 bucks, and it's still running pretty good. And of course, the big advantage now is, especially on the East Coast, it's over 25 years old. He doesn't have to deal with any of that emissions BS, and he can drive it until the wheels fall off, and no one's going to say you can't drive that because your check engine light is on. If you really wanted to snazz it up, hey, he could get another hubcap. Not let people see the driver's side. He's got them on the passenger side. And like I warned people about quality ain't what it used to be, well, okay, this is an old vehicle, right? Well, look at the mirrors. They're still solid plastic, right? And you remember, I had guys bringing me 2 3-year-old Toyotas, and the plastic had melted, and Toyota called it a thermal event, meaning that the sun got hot and melted it. Well, this one's not melted. This one isn't melted either. It's the original one. Yeah, it's a little faded here, but it's not melted. Don't even make the plastic parts like they used to. My favorite. You know what these are? You never see those anymore. Glass headlights. Do they fade? No, they do not fade. They cost hardly nothing, and they last a long time. And then you wonder, why did they go to make plastic headlights? They fade, they crack, then you gotta buy an assembly that costs hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Well, they did it for one reason, and that's style. If these are fogged up, you get a Windex and you clean them, and then they're shiny again. Now he's got a tow hitch. He even admits he's over-towed. He's done pallets of pavers and stuff. Now you can see here, this is typical too. The bumpers rust away, and it's still solid. But when I got my son's, his was completely rotted away. So I put a brand new one on. Cost me $110 online. It was all chromed, and when he got rid of it years later, it was still nice and chrome. So these things are easy and cheap to fix too. It just bolts off, bolts on. Parts are so readily available for them worldwide, because like I say, they're running these things in the desert all over the place. There's still tons of them going, and there's all kinds of inexpensive parts you can get to fix them up with. It's still going strong. The old Tacomas, hey, maybe their new version of a small pickup will at least come close to this thing in terms of size. They could certainly get a little bit better gas mileage because they could go front wheel drive. But Toyota said they're going to make them. I hope they do make small pickup trucks, because they could clean up with that. There's so many people that would be happy with the small pickup truck. People don't all want this big giant truck that costs $60,000 to $80,000 and gets horrible gas mileage. Let's hope they come out with a smaller one. Bigger is not necessarily better. It's often worse. You get a nice sized truck that fits what you want. If it can last like these things for 20, 30, 40 years, hey, let's hope they bring back the smaller one. I guarantee you they'll sell the heck out of them if they do. CX-9, and the guy's the original owner. So you look under the hood, well, see the heart of the beast, which is the Skyactiv technology engine. Guys, it's a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder engine. Now, being a relatively large 4-cylinder engine with all-wheel drive, it gets 26 on the highway, which is okay considering its size. Even though it's not a V6, it still has decent horsepower, and to make guys like me happy, it does have a 6-speed automatic transmission. The ones I've driven before were really fun to drive. We'll see what happens when we road test this. Now granted, this is a turbocharged engine, but it's a 2.5 liter. It's not like it's a little bitty 1.5 or 1.1 turbo. It's already got a decent size, and from my experience with these Mazdas, they have not particularly had any turbocharged problems. Now this one's been in a few wrecks, so it's gone through the washing machine a little bit. Let's start it up and listen to it. Sounds perfectly smooth, you can see. Got 137,000 miles on it. And as you can see, the control for your right hand is pretty good. It's right where you want it. Gives you all kinds of selections of what to go through. Yes, it does have the horrible electric parking brake, which I hate, but what can you do? But on the other hand, you can go manual shifting if you want. Go up, down. You can put it in sport mode. I realize this is Mazda's biggest thing, so plenty of room. It does have third row seating. You don't get much of view, but it's there. And of course, when you put it down, you get a lot more space. One of the reasons he brought it here was for me to see what kind of shape it's in with all this mileage. Turn the idiot lights on and we'll check it out. It's a CX-9, 2.5 liter automatic, all-wheel drive. This is my water bottle. Gee, I wonder where it went. It's the exact same one I lost last year. Since it's his wife's vehicle, I'm assuming she bought it to match the decor, because it does. Being a new vehicle, it went through pretty fast, and a lot of it's good, and there are a few faults here. Powertrain, we'll see what that is. It has a code for fuel pump control module A. A crazy P064A006C code. But it's thinking there's some kind of problem in the fuel pump control, which may or may not be true, so we'll erase the code. And it's got a code for the front body control module. We'll see what nonsense that is. There's a problem with line bus B. That's computer control stuff. Connectivity of a master unit has a code. We'll see what that is. Problem with a speaker amplifier. Well, we'll erase that too. It's got a code for the blind spot monitoring on the left front. We'll see what that is. Invalid data received from electronic control module, powertrain control module A. So we'll erase that too. Now realize this thing's been wrecked multiple times. A lot of times wires might get pinched, you'll get weird communication codes, but as long as the car runs okay, you live with it. Complex cars with all this electronics, they get in wrecks, you're going to end up getting squirrely codes. If it works okay, it's a lot of stuff you'll just blow off. Check out the live data. We'll start her up. We'll go to live data. It's got active air calibration on the front. I mean, these are very complex cars. They've got variable valve timing. These Skyactiv technology things have a lot of technology in them. You can see misfire counts 0000. 4R0 shows you the turbocharged boost pressure, the engine oil temperature. Now you don't see it on the dash, but the computer knows. You can see the equivalency ratio. 1 is perfect, it's 0.9, and then 1, 1.01, 1, it's almost perfect. Fuel injection amount in milligrams per cylinder. A lot of interesting data. The temperature of the intercooler outlet air temperature for the turbo. Sensor's good, 2.6, 2.7, it's a 2.5 liter engine, so it's about the same, which is what you want. Gives you information on the thermostats because this is Skyactiv technology. They're trying to get them as efficient as possible. So the thermostat has a lot more to do in this car making it run right than in a normal car. Shows you the turbocharger inlet pressure, the wastegate positions, if it's going too high, even the oil pressure on the variable valves. Close the hood, take it for a spin. Beautiful color though. Mazda knows how to paint cars. After all, this particular one's made in Japan. It's got a J on the VIN number. J means made in Japan. First thing I noticed, even though it's got 137,000 miles, this baby idles smooth as silk. And yeah, the leather's wearing off the steering wheel. I'd recover that. And it's a relatively high vehicle, not outrageous, but we can go over my speed bump here. There's no dragging or anything. So here we go. We'll check it out in the bumpy Rhode Island road. And takes those bumps pretty good. It's got a decent suspension system. That's all still original struts and everything with 137,000 miles, and it still rides pretty smooth. We get out to our little left turn here. Nobody's coming to the right. All right, here we go. Whee! It gets up and goes. You heard it burn a little bit of rubber. Now, it is a turbo, but it's a 2.5 liter, so it's a reasonable size engine, and it's got plenty of zip. You step on the gas, it does pick up and go. And when you want to go into a turn, turns on a dime. No particular oversteer, understeer. It's something for an SUV of this size, really. See their heads-up display there. It is kind of an afterthought. It doesn't match the rest of the car. I would have wished they incorporated it into the dash better myself, but hey, running-wise, it's fine. And as we take off again, this thing's got some zip. Now, he was worried about that wheel bearing, and I can hear a little noise coming from the front wheel bearing. So, indeed, it's going to need that wheel bearing again. It has hit curbs and stuff, and realize hitting curbs will eventually destroy your wheel bearings. Now, they'll get bent a little bit, maybe a few thousandths of an inch, and you won't hear it at first, but sometimes, as much as years later, you'll start to hear the noise, and then you'll know, you're hitting the curbs on that side, and the noise is definitely coming from that side. I would also check the rear ones, too, because if you hit the right front, odds are the right rear's probably been hit too, and that wheel bearing's probably got some wear to it. Now, I took it for a good spin, so let's turn this back on and check codes. See if any of those squirrely codes came back. No fault codes detected. So, all those squirrely communication codes, they may have never been reset after the damage was fixed from the wrecks it's been in, so who knows, but everything's working that he needs to be working. So you get an older car, you get squirrely codes in a car that's been wrecked a few times, do like I just did, erase them all. And if none of them come back, well then you know, well, no one bothered to reset it when they did the work. Or if they do come back and they're squirrely stuff that you don't care about, the radio communication and the radio works okay, you just blow it off. Pretty good shape after all these years. Now, unfortunately, you won't be able to buy them in the future because they're not making them anymore. They're replacing them with the CX-90s. Now, this is a loaded version of the CX-9, and he paid in the low 30s, right? Take a gander of a loaded CX-90. From what I see, they're like 60 grand or more. So, you're gonna pay twice the price. Yes, the new ones have their new straight 6-cylinder engine, blah, 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 blah. But, hey, this 2.5 liter has got insane power, an excellent transmission. Hey, it might be a great engine, but for $60,000, I could think of better things to do with my money. Like buy one of these old ones used and save even more money. This thing's still got a lot of life. Original engine, original tranny. Sure, his wife runs into a few things, and it's held up. It's still going, you know? It didn't fall apart. And all because Volkswagen had Dieselgate. If they wouldn't have had Dieselgate, they'd probably still be driving those Volkswagen diesels around. Those engines can go a long time. But this is a replacement, and they made a wise move. My advice is never, ever buy any large SUV that Volkswagen makes. They are endless money pits. Every customer I had that bought one said to me one of the worst vehicles they ever had, and they never bought another one. But as for these Mazdas, they can be pretty good vehicles in the price points of the old ones, though the new ones are getting outrageously expensive, and they're playing a different ball game now. As you can see, it is a Celica GT. All the Zoom guys wanted the GTS. It's the same size as this. They're both 1.8 liter. But the Yamaha designed one had a real problem that it put its horsepower up at high RPMs. They didn't make the oil sump right. They'd scavenge, they'd suck air, and the engine would go boom. Every single customer I had with the GTS was either on their second or third engines. They couldn't take the extra horsepower with the design. Now, bigger oil pan, bigger sump, you can beef the engine up. It's basically the engine that they used to use in those baby Lotuses, but this one has a somewhat slower engine. It's still 1.8 liters, but it's not the Yamaha design. There's all your specs on the engine. And this has less horsepower, but guess what? It lasts longer. This thing has over 203,000 miles, and she is the original owner. Her parents were accountants, and they got it to her to go to college, and she still has. She's put all 203,000 miles on the car. And does the engine burn oil? No, it still runs perfectly fine. This is all still pretty much bone stock. I don't know if her parents were mechanical geniuses, or since they were both accountants, they probably got this one because it costs less than the GTS. But in this case, you were better buying a cheaper car because it had the engine that would last longer. Because any way you look at these cars, they're much more sporty looking than the other ones were. But, okay, looks can be deceiving. This car looks a lot faster than it is. So, with the GTS engine, they're a little bit faster, and they're still not really any type of race car. The problem was, Toyota was always competing with Honda, and the Honda engines had tons more horsepower and torque. They kept making the Hondas, and Toyota finally just said, well, we're not going to make these anymore. And one of the other problems with them was, this was the last generation. The one I have in 94 is the second to last generation. And believe it or not, the last models of the second to last generation cost anywhere from 3 to 5 grand more than the newer ones did. They were manufacturing them so much cheaper, they got thinner metal and stuff, which, you know, it's okay. This is held up. Still a Toyota. They learned how to rust-proof them. Hey, this thing's lived in Massachusetts and Connecticut its whole life. It's not rusted at all. So they know what they're doing when they build them. They're not going to rust out on you. But they're not any type of actual race car, and they were in a situation where they really didn't know what to do with the Celica. And Toyota and sports cars, let's face the facts, they gave up years ago. Toyota Supra, the new Supra, it's a BMW made in Germany. It has nothing to do with Toyota. And their other one is just a rebadged Subaru with a Subaru Boxer engine that's made by Subaru. Toyota's not in the sports car business anymore. That's not what they want. They make cars that people buy, SUVs that people want to buy, and they pretty much gave up on sports cars. They could have always sold a certain amount of them. You know, there's no arguing that. And unfortunately for Toyota, Mazda won the cuteness with their Mazda Miatas, and they're all drop tops. So Toyota messed around with a few convertibles, but that was never their thing. A lot of them were converted in California. That's not Toyota's ball game. So they pretty much gave up on these, even though they could run and run and run, because really this engine is pretty much the same thing as in my wife's Matrix, and it still runs like a clock. You can cruise all day at 80 miles an hour or more if you want this thing. It's not a race car for racing, but the Celicas never really worked. She wanted a red car. They got her this, 203,000 miles. It still runs like a clock. If you really want something to last forever, you get a standard transmission, a manual transmission. At 180,000 miles, granted that's a reasonable amount of mileage, the check engine light came on for the first time. Getting off the highway, and the car just wouldn't go up to speed. The transmission went out, and it ended up costing her $4,000. 180,000 miles, but if it had been a standard transmission, it wouldn't have had anything other than you got to put a clutch in them once in a while. The automatic transmissions are the weakest things in these cars. Hers finally just went out at 180,000 miles. She didn't change the filter or fluid in the transmission ever. I'm assuming that's probably one of the reasons it went out. Mine has 230,000 something miles on it. I changed the fluid every 30,000 miles, and it still works perfectly fine. So it went 180,000 miles, but if the filter and fluid had been changed like every 30, 40,000 miles, it probably wouldn't have gone out. The transmission would probably still be going, because from my experience with my own customers, I never had a transmission in a Toyota go out when I serviced them. This is why never ever listen to those idiots at the dealerships with modern cars that don't have dipsticks. Now this isn't modern enough. It's got a transmission dipstick in it. So you can check it and change it yourself. It's no big deal. But the new ones don't have dipsticks. And they say, oh, don't bother changing the fluid. It's a lifetime fluid. And then you say, okay, what does that mean? Well, the fluid's good for the lifetime of the transmission. You're like, okay, what's your warranty? Well, Toyota warranty's like 60,000 miles. Well, hers went 180 before it blew up, right? And she never changed the fluid. But they're only giving you 60,000 mile warranty. After that, it's your dollar. So you still want to change the filter and fluid. Even though you can't check it with a dipstick. Watch my videos. You can learn how to change it yourself. It's not that hard to do. You want them to last forever. Hey. But again, they are Toyota, so I suppose if you don't change it, maybe you'll get 180,000 before yours goes out. But hey, $4,000 is $4,000. I'd rather spend $50 here and there changing the fluid. Now, if you look closer, you'll see the back is shinier than the front. That's because she's been rear-ended twice. Guys did a good job fixing the car. You know, I wouldn't have noticed other than it's shinier than the rest of the car. You got to realize that these are basically Toyota Corolla chassis. Everything on them is pretty much fixable. The parts don't cost all that much money. Just like my wife's Matrix. Originally, the Matrix were called Toyota Corolla Matrixes, and they got rid of the Corolla and called them Toyota Matrixes, and they stopped making them. And now they made them again, and they're calling them Corolla hatchbacks. But hey, they're still Matrixes. Now, they don't make them Cambridge, Ontario anymore. They only make Lexuses there, but these were made in Japan. You can see, there it is, made in Japan. Look at the workmanship. I mean, it's still in excellent shape. Even the fancy seats, they're not too faded at all. That's one thing to be aware of. Yes, there isn't much room in the back seats. My old Celica 94, there wasn't much room in the back seat there. My son used to moan because he's 6'2". He had to sit back there when he was bigger, but hey, maybe that'd help get him out of the house when he turned 18, you know? Give kids some motivation these days. Don't hand them everything. Now, it does have new rims. Her husband got them for Christmas because the old ones are finally starting to corrode, and these are a lot sharper looking. But these things really, they look sporty, but they're not hard to maintain. She's been through 4 sets of tires. That means she's gotten 50,000 miles out of the tires each time. They're not particularly oddball sizes, so you can get these tires. It's not like you got a Porsche or something where the tires are going to be $500, $600 up a piece. These are reasonable because it's just a common size. Other than the transmission, which I would have changed the fluid in it, everything else is still pretty much stock on it. Hey, the beauty cover isn't even cracked yet. They even used to make plastic better than they do today. Now, maybe some at all, but it's got a lot of computer stuff, so I'm going to do a scan of it. Now, this is an interesting scan tool. This is an X-Tool F401. As you can see, I wrote Japanese only. It only does Japanese cars, so it doesn't do all cars. But hey, for its price, it does a whole bunch of stuff. I hooked it up to my son's Corolla last year, and it said low on refrigerant. Well, the year before, I had added refrigerant, but I didn't change any of the codes. And it still remembered that in the past it had been low on refrigerant. And that's pretty good for a little handheld scan tool. Its remote just plugs in down there. And as you can see, it's very user-friendly. It's got a quick guide built in. What we're going to do is diagnosis, automatic identification. And while we're waiting, check it out. They got a little toy one here. Same color, it's pretty cool. Kept this car up. Look at the interior. It's still excellent. No cracks or anything. Now, I do have to say, she does garage this thing, and it's been taken care of. But even so, it goes out in the roads in the winter. She's her everyday driver, and it isn't rusted. Toyota coats these things pretty good. It doesn't have a rust problem. Now, scanning through the system. Well, read codes. There aren't any codes. Got no codes. Are there any pending codes? EVAP emission leak detected, small leak. She told me it's got a small leak. It's had it for years, but it works okay. She's had the EVAP canister changed, all kinds of stuff. So let's start it up. Let's look at some live data. Short-term fuel trim, 0%. That's amazing for a car this old. And as I said, you can see it's got 203,000 miles on it. Temperatures and everything is good. The oxygen standard voltage output, it's a pretty good little scan tool. Now, it only works on Japanese cars. You can see here's a short-term fuel trim, bank 1 sensor 2, 99.2. 100 is perfect, so it's almost perfect. It's only a tiny bit off. So really, as old as this thing is, it's still in immaculate shape. We'll take it for a little road test. Brings it back to the good old days. Real parking brakes. And hey, tapes and CDs, and an FM AM radio. It's relatively low to the ground, so I'm going to go slow over this bump. I don't want to drag pieces of the plastic undercarriage off. So I'll go pretty slow here. And it didn't drag, so that's good. Well, the new transmission works fine. It's shifting like a dream. It is a small wheelbase car. You hit these bumpy roads. There goes the old toy car. We'll move that out of the way. But you hit bumps, you're going to feel it. It's a pretty short wheelbase, just like my wife's Matrix and my Celica. They are zippy and fun to drive around, but they're not the smoothest rides in the world. That's not what a sports car, especially of this size, is about. And she didn't change the fluid and filter all those years, or she probably wouldn't have had to fork out $4,000 for a new transmission. Now we come to a stop and clear on that side, clear on the other side. Here we go. And hey, it's got some zip to it. Shift smooth. It's a fun little zippy car to drive around. Not a race car, but seeing that it has a less powerful engine, hey, 203,000 miles, runs that good, and doesn't burn any oil. That's still the original engine. And of course, when you're cornering, they are fun to drive. They're zippy little corners. They're a lot of fun to fiddle around in. Now, since they were made less expensive than the older Celicas, they actually weigh a little bit more, and with the engine, they got even the smaller engine. It's got enough zip to have fun with. Responsive steering. Hey, sure, it's not a race car, but just up on the gas. It's got to rev up higher, but when that variable valve timing kicks in, it still takes off quite nicely. Now, when you consider this has 203,000 miles, and my wife's Matrix with the same engine just passed 100,000 miles, and they both run pretty much the same, hey, so that's going to last a long time, and this one, it's probably going to still last a long time, too. So, it was this model that led to the demise of the Celicas, but as you can see, this one has held up exceptionally well. The problem was they were competing in a segment they didn't want to compete in, and they screwed up with the Yamaha designed engine that this one doesn't have. So if you like style, you look at one of these, make sure you get a GT and not a GTS. Have a guy like me check it out, because I've seen guys put GT stickers on the back and take the GTS one off. Oh no, that's not the bad engine. You need a mechanic to check it out to make sure that somebody's not pulling a fast one. You find something like this with this kind of module with no rust, and this is Massachusetts, Connecticut, no rust. It's not like it was in Texas or Arizona. It was up north all this time, and it's still in excellent shape. So, even though they don't make them anymore, sad but true, this one certainly has held up over time. And I doubt people are saying, you think they're going to bring back the Celica? I don't think they ever will. Although, who knows, maybe some squirrely guy will come up with, let's make an electric Celica. You never know. After all, it's just a name. The modern Supra is a name that has nothing to do with Toyota Supra. It's a rebadged BMW. Names don't mean anything these days. As for this, it held up quite well. She's still the original owner. She wants to keep it forever. Who knows? Maybe she will. And guess what? It still gets 31 miles a gallon, showing the engine has practically no wear. But I knew that from the data because it was running at 99.2% efficiency out of 100%. So with that kind of mileage, it wouldn't surprise me it still gets that kind of gas mileage. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.